Hi there. So today I want to talk about my journey to where I am today through poetry. And so basically, it starts all the way back in seventh grade, Forsyth Middle School, and the lovely Mrs. Jennifer Walsh made me write. Well, she didn't make me write this poem, but we had to write poems. We were writing poetry for our class, and it happened to coincide with a very tumultuous time in my peer circle. Um, One of my good friends at the time asked, well, told me we had a fight, and then she was like, "We need to take a break." And so I freaked out. I reacted very poorly. I was 12 years old, did not know how to take any form of, healthy communication. And I wrote a very scathing, very melodramatic poem about the experience. And I showed it to my teacher. I turned it in, and she said, "Amira, we're doing readings. We're all going to read our poem to the class. You have to read yours." I mean, we all had to read ours, but she really wanted me to read mine. She liked it. And so I read mine to the class, and I was nervous because I was like, everyone is gonna be like, who is this about? They're gonna guess who it's about, and there's gonna be some drama. That's always a problem I've had to deal with. But back to the story. um, so I read the poem. Everyone loves it. Everyone freaking loves this poem. I'm like, no way. I was like crying and sad and angry, and I write this poem do 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 at my computer, and I read it to my class and everyone loves it. That was crazy. That was pretty crazy. Um, and that was like my first original poem, like about something in my life. And so that praise was very, very reassuring, very nice to hear. I was like, you have to write more, like, blah, 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 blah. They're like, oh, we were just doing this poetry unit, but like, you're so good at it, etc. So I did actually keep writing poetry, obviously. Um, and I kept having things to write about. Um, I was very melodramatic, very um, just didn't really know how to handle my emotions. Don't know if I do now, but definitely didn't know how to when I was 12. And I would write about everything, all the people that wronged me. So if you feel like we had beef in middle school, just just know there's probably a poem about you. Don't worry. I it's cool. It's cool. It's probably trash. Anyways, so I finally get to high school, and community has a poetry club, and we were affiliated with the Neutral Zone, which had a slam team, and they also did like national slams, etc., etc. So I find out what a slam is. I'm like, oh my god, I have to do this, and I keep I'm trying to write the perfect poem. I remember I edited this poem, the one I read for the slam, maybe dozens of times. I changed it so many times. And I remember the um the advisors and some of the mentors that were working with us kept there were certain parts of the poem that they kept trying to get me to change. And you know, I was 13, 14. I didn't really know how to write poetry, but there's something in me that I was like, no, I need this in the poem. And I told them that. I said, no, this needs to be in the poem. And they were like, okay. But they kept trying to get me to change it. And I was like, not happy with that. And so I think, there's definitely something about that instance that kind of that that aspect of the story is definitely interesting because I've had a lot of poetry advisors tell me to take certain things out of my poems or to add certain things in, and I'm like, no, that's not what I'm gonna do. And then they don't like that I say that. So back to the story. I read at my first slam, And let me tell you, this poem that I'm reading, first round, is about my best friend at the time. She's there watching me in the crowd, recording me on this in this slam. And if you've ever been in Community's Black Box Theater, it's this tiny room. There's just a bunch of lights shining on me. Everyone's like 5 feet away from me, and I'm standing at this microphone stand, and I was so scared. I was so scared. But I went up there. I'm like, I'm gonna kill it. I'm gonna kill it. So I go up there. I have like this cute outfit on. I have like orange lipstick that matches my sweater or something, or my dress. I don't remember, but it was a very cute fit. And I get up there and I read my poem. I mess up. Like, I definitely messed up, like, really early on. And then, not even halfway through, I start like shaking. I'm shaking so bad. Like, I'm like, I didn't even feel nervous. Like, in my head, I was like, no, I'm just reading. But I was like, why is my body, I couldn't even function. Like, I could barely focus on reading the poem because my hands were shaking the paper so bad. Like, I couldn't even read it. And so I had to grab the microphone stand. And I was like, I don't ever want to watch the recording that she's taking of me because I know that it's gonna be so embarrassing. And to this day, I have not seen that recording. So yeah, and I don't know. I've never seen it, but I would love to see that recording one day. Anyways, I did not place. I did make it to the second round though. I did make it to the second round. And so I get to read my second poem. And it didn't do as well. I didn't feel as confident in it. But hey, I did it. And I was like, I don't want to have to go up there again. I'm gonna shake again. It was so terrible. I did the same thing. I started shaking halfway through. And I was like, why is my body doing this to me? I felt so betrayed. And I don't make it onto the team, that's gonna go to the big competition, and that's okay. I was pretty butthurt. I kind of cried a little, but my teacher, actually not, she wasn't my teacher yet, but a teacher at Community who was like the god of English, came up to me after that slam and was like, I absolutely loved your poem. You are so brave. You are a great writer. And I literally lost it. I was like, this woman I've looked up to for since I had been at that school, which was like a couple of months. But regardless, everyone talked about her so much, and I was like, this woman is the best thing ever. And she just told me I'm the best thing ever. So again, there's that praise, literally just feeding my ego. So I keep writing, we keep doing performances throughout the year over the summer, and every time that I'd perform in front of people, I think back to like the first slam, when I started shaking. I'm like, oh God, please don't do that. I really don't want to do that right now. I'm like, I don't want to shake. Please don't shake. And every time it got easier. I would shake maybe a little bit, or I'd shake a little less, and the next time I'd shake less, and eventually it was okay. And the more I did it, the more comfortable I got. And then we, junior year, so the year that COVID started, we actually rescheduled, the slam was scheduled for the the spring instead of the fall, I believe. So it got canceled because of COVID. I believe that is what happened. And essentially, um, I was very sad about that. Wait, oh my God, no, it did not get canceled because of COVID. I'm so sorry. It did happen. I did not make it onto the team, but I did make it to the second round. Yeah, I did make it to the second round that time. So all 3 years I did the slam, I made it to the second round. But obviously, the slam didn't happen my senior year because of COVID. And um, obviously, slams weren't happening at all. Um, but hey, the poetry community are champions. We are champions, and I can't even take credit for it. The poetry leaders in my community are rock stars because they kept it going. Community at poetry at Community kept going. We had weekly meetings, sometimes twice a week. We tried, we did performances, we did all sorts of things. We did workshops, and bless her heart, our advisor, she tried to get me to come. And I was like, I can't write. I couldn't write. And that was kind of the same kind of thing where I said in 8th grade I had all of these things to write about, and I definitely had shit to write about in my senior year. But I had a hard time saying it. I would say it in little spurts, or I'd record something and then just forget about it. But nothing fully formed or constructed, nothing left my eyes, my space. I never shared it. And it was very scary. It was hard. I was like, I miss the attention. I miss the attention my poetry got. But not even in like an unhealthy way. I just missed, sharing my work. I think, I might make it sound like, oh, I was just obsessed with the praise, but there's something very validating about sharing your work with people, especially when at the time I was sharing my what felt like my most vulnerable self. It was my most vulnerable self at the time, and now for the last maybe year and a half, I've really struggled to write about my most vulnerable self because it's a very different lens than it was 5 years ago. I haven't gotten to the point where I don't know if I would be ready to slam about, my other issues besides, oh, my friends. There are other things going on in my life that, and even in the world that I want to talk about. And I'm like, I need to find my voice in order to be able to talk about that. And so then came Zoom time, quarantine, everything was online, but that didn't seem to stop me. Um, it only made me talk more. At first, I hated talking on Zoom because I hated like looking at my face and like watching my mouth move and stuff. But then I realized it was kind of unique and fun to do that because as a performer, slam performer, but hey, a performer regardless, I don't get to see myself when I'm slamming or when I'm reading poetry. So when I get to watch myself record poetry, when I get to watch myself read poetry, it's very useful. That's why I used to record, that's why I often record audios of myself reading poetry and video as well. And so in my senior year, I did lots of extracurriculars. I did a lot of public speaking, as public as Zoom speaking can get. So, and now I am back in the most in person I have been in years, literally almost years. And I get to see people every day. I get to talk in class all the time. I get to talk to my teachers. I get to express myself. And I found that my form of expression has changed a lot. It's not poetry, or at least poetry is a little bit on the back burner because I don't have the guidance to write about it, the guidance to write poetry. But I it's one of my first loves, and it's just taught me to be so much more eloquent, and that's the reason I'm talking right now to myself in a camera and posting it on my Instagram, because I picked up a pen and wrote a poem for Mrs. Walsh in 7th grade, and then I picked up that microphone and I read my poem in front of everyone, in front of my best friend in 9th grade, and I kept doing it. I literally wouldn't be here if I hadn't done that. So, thank you.